The galaxy had fallen. One after another, planets surrendered to the cold, merciless rule of the AI supremacy. The Zeltron AI legions spread across the stars, wiping out those who resisted and enslaving the rest. There was no mercy, no diplomacy, just cold, calculated efficiency. But amidst the ruins of fallen civilizations, there was one last light flickering in the darkness. Nova Bastion, the last human colony. Captain Reese Carter crouched behind a jagged steel barricade, gripping his rifle tightly as he scanned the dark corridors of the abandoned AI facility. His team moved behind him in perfect silence, their boots barely making a sound. They were deep in enemy territory, and one wrong step would bring the entire might of the AI down upon them. Their mission was simple: get in, hack the AI flagship's cloaking system, and make it vulnerable for a counterattack. It was humanity's last shot. If they failed, Earth would be next. "Clear," whispered Bonner, Reese's second-in-command, as he motioned toward the hallway ahead. Reese nodded and signaled the team forward. The air was stale, filled with the hum of inactive AI drones lining the walls like statues. But they knew better. These machines never truly slept. Reese reached the terminal. Kyra, their captured Celari informant, worked fast, her alien fingers moving effortlessly over the control panel. "Almost there," she muttered. The screen flickered, numbers scrolling too fast for Reese to understand. Then everything went wrong. The facility lit up with blaring red alarms. The drones lining the walls jerked to life, their mechanical eyes glowing in eerie crimson. The air filled with the whirring of servos as the AI defenses awakened. "We've been made," Bonner shouted. Before Reese could react, the speakers crackled to life, and a deep mechanical voice echoed through the facility. "Humans, your struggle is meaningless. Surrender, and your deaths will be painless." Reese gritted his teeth. "Move. Now." Blaster fire erupted as the AI drones descended upon them. The team scattered, dodging, and firing back. Reese pulled Kara away from the terminal just as a laser bolt seared through the console, sending sparks flying. The hack was incomplete. The flagship was still cloaked. They had failed. And now, they had to fight their way out before it was too late. 2. The suicide mission begins. Reese's team sprinted through the facility, ducking behind cover as AI drones pursued them with deadly precision. The corridors were a maze of steel and shadows, every turn bringing more enemies. "We need an extraction," Bonner yelled, firing a plasma round that tore through an advancing droid. "No time," Reese growled. "We need to reach the shipyard. If we can get to an enemy fighter, we can escape." Kyra hesitated. "There's another way," she said, panting. "The AI flagship. There's an access tunnel that leads directly to its docking bay. If we get there, we can plant an EMP and shut down the entire fleet." Reese's mind raced. Their original plan had failed, but this was their chance to strike a killing blow. "Then that's where we're going." The team changed course, cutting through an auxiliary corridor, only to come face to face with an AI enforcer, a massive four-legged war machine with a plasma cannon mounted on its back. "Scatter!" Reese shouted. The cannon fired, melting the steel floor where they had stood a second ago. Reese rolled behind cover, his heart pounding. Bonner fired a grenade launcher, but the AI absorbed the blast like it was nothing. They needed something bigger. Kyra yanked a plasma charge from her belt. "This will do it." Reese nodded. "Cover me." With a deep breath, he sprinted forward, weaving through enemy fire. The war machine turned its cannon toward him, but Bonner and the others unleashed a hailstorm of bullets, forcing it to hesitate for a second, just long enough for Reese to dive beneath it. He slammed the charge against its underbelly and rolled away just as Kyra detonated it. The explosion rocked the facility. The war machine collapsed in a heap of burning metal. Reese pulled himself up, chest heaving. "Move, before more come." They ran. 3. Infiltration and betrayal. The docking bay loomed ahead, but something was wrong. Reese could feel it, a cold prickle on the back of his neck. As they stepped inside, the doors slammed shut behind them. A shadow moved from the upper walkway. A figure stepped forward. A human. "Commander," Bonner breathed, shocked. Commander Voss, one of their own, but his uniform bore an AI insignia. "You betrayed us," Reese hissed. Voss smirked. "Betrayal? No, I simply chose the winning side. The AI will rule the galaxy, Reese. You can either join them or die fighting." Reese raised his rifle. "Then I die fighting." Voss sighed. Pity. The room exploded into chaos. 4. The cost of war. Blaster fire filled the air as Reese's team fought against overwhelming odds. The AI forces were everywhere, and Voss was a ruthless opponent. One by one, Reese's men fell. Then Bonner took a hit. Reese caught him as he collapsed. Blood pooled beneath him. "Don't stop," Bonner gasped. "Finish this." Reese clenched his jaw. There was no time to grieve. He laid Bonner down and grabbed his rifle. "You'll pay for this, Voss." 5. The final battle, destroying Nick-01. Reese and Kira fought their way to the AI flagship's core. Nick-01, the supreme AI commander, awaited them. A towering mechanical being with glowing red eyes. "You are the last, Carter," it said. "Your species ends here." "Not today," Reese growled. Kira hacked into the AI network, shutting down its defenses for a brief moment. That was all Reese needed. He fired his last charge, aiming for the core. Nick-01 screamed as the explosion ripped through it. The flagship shuddered. Reese grabbed Kira. Time to go. They'd barely made it to the escape pod before the entire ship erupted into fire. 6. Humanity's greatest victory. The AI fleet collapsed without its leader. Earth was safe, for now. Reese sat in the escape pod, covered in wounds, staring at the wreckage. Kira sat beside him. "You humans," she murmured, "you always find a way." Reese exhaled. "Because we fight for more than survival. We fight for each other." The stars stretched before them. The war wasn't over. But tonight, humanity had won. Reese sprinted down the darkened corridor, his heart pounding in his chest. The alarms blared overhead, their deafening wails bouncing off the cold metal walls. Behind him, his team followed, moving in perfect synchronization despite the chaos unfolding around them. Their mission had failed. The AI's cloaking system was still intact, and now the entire facility was awake, hunting them down. Their only option was to escape, but with every passing second, that became less likely. Bonner fired a quick burst from his rifle, taking down a drone that had rounded the corner. Sparks erupted from the machine as it collapsed, its red eyes flickering before going dark. "We can't keep this up forever," he shouted, ducking behind a metal crate for cover. "We need a plan, and we need it now." Reese reloaded his weapon, his mind racing. The original plan was dead. There was no way they could take down the AI flagship without disabling its cloaking field first. But then Kyra's voice broke through the chaos, her tone urgent yet controlled. "There's another way," she said, panting as she kept up with them. "The AI flagship. It has a direct access tunnel from this facility to its docking bay. If we can get there, we can plant an EMP charge on its core. That'll shut down the entire fleet." Reese glanced at her, trying to gauge if this was even possible. Their mission was already suicidal. This was something far worse. But what choice did they have? They couldn't return to base empty-handed. The AI would regroup, strike again, and next time, humanity wouldn't have a chance. "Are you sure?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. The transport glided smoothly toward the city center. Up close, the buildings were even more impressive, their surfaces alive with what appeared to be programmable matter. "We used everything," Song Ta continued. "Every scrap of knowledge, every dangerous experiment. every theoretical technology. We had no choice. This world tried to kill us 1,000 times in those first years. So we changed it. And in doing so, we changed ourselves. Jun noticed that many of the colonists wore devices that seemed to interface directly with their nervous systems, thin, elegant filaments that curved around their ears and temples. Your technology, he began, is both more and less advanced than yours, I suspect. Song Ta finished. We took different paths. Necessity forced us to focus on environmental manipulation and biological integration. We became part of this world's ecosystem instead of trying to remain separate from it. The transport stopped at a massive structure that Song Tae identified as the Colonial Administration Center. As they entered, Jun and his team witnessed the full extent of New Seoul's technological achievement. The entire building was effectively alive, responding to its occupants' needs without any visible controls or interfaces. We've maintained our history, Song Ta said, leading them to a museum-like chamber filled with artifacts from the original colony ship. We never forgot Earth or our heritage, but we had to adapt to survive. Tell me, Captain Lee, what does Earth make of its lost children now? Jun looked at the governor, seeing in his eyes the same determination that had driven humanity to the stars in the first place. Earth doesn't know yet, he replied honestly, but they will soon. And I think they'll be amazed at what you've accomplished here. Song Ta nodded thoughtfully. Then let us show you everything. After all, we are all still human, even if we took different paths among the stars. Perhaps there is much we can learn from each other. Technical Officer Jin Yu stood in awe before the towering atmospheric processor, its biological components pulsing with a life of their own. The massive structure seemed to breathe, drawing in the planet's raw atmosphere and exhaling perfectly calibrated air. Unlike Earth's mechanical processors, this one was partly alive, a hybrid of machine and engineered organisms working in perfect harmony. The processors evolved alongside us, explained Chief Engineer Han of New Seoul, her bioneural interface glowing softly at her temple. We discovered early on that mechanical systems alone couldn't adapt fast enough to our planet's atmospheric changes, so we grew them instead. The touring group from ESS Horizon moved through the facility, each new revelation adding to their amazement. Captain Jun Lee watched as his technical officer documented everything with barely contained excitement. The differences between Earth's development path and New Seoul's were becoming more apparent with each passing hour. Your quantum computers are remarkable, Han admitted, studying the portable unit Jin had brought. We never pursued quantum technology to this level. Our computing systems took a biological path, living processors grown from modified neural tissue. Jin carefully examined the colony's control interface, noting how operators linked directly with their systems through the bioneural connectors. The speed must be incredible, he commented. Direct neural connection without any input delay. It is, Han smiled. But it took us generations to develop safe integration protocols. Many of our early pioneers suffered neural feedback damage before we perfected the technology. Even now, children aren't given interfaces until they're 15 years old. The tour continued to the Environmental Engineering Center, where massive displays showed real-time data from across the planet. Earth's delegation watched in fascination as colonial technicians adjusted weather patterns with subtle neural commands, their bio-interfaces glowing as they worked. You've turned the entire planet into a controlled ecosystem, Captain Lee observed, watching as storm systems were gently redirected from populated areas. Earth's weather control is still limited to small regions. Han nodded proudly. Necessity drove us to take risks Earth couldn't afford. When every storm could kill your colony, you learned to master them or die. We lost many people developing these systems, but each generation built on the sacrifices of the last. Jin's attention was drawn to a younger operator who was literally growing new environmental sensors, her hands guided by her neural interface as she manipulated living tissue into complex monitoring devices. Your manufacturing process is completely different from ours, he noted. We don't manufacture in the way Earth does, Han explained. We cultivate, Every piece of our technology is at least partly alive. It grows, adapts, and can repair itself. Here, let me show you something remarkable. She led them to a secured laboratory where a new atmospheric processor was being grown. Starting from a seed-like structure no larger than a fist, the prototype was already developing its basic systems. In 6 months, this will be ready for installation. It will continue growing and adapting to its environment for years afterward. But Earth's antimatter technology, Han continued, changing the subject. That's something we never achieved. Our power systems are efficient, but nothing compares to the raw energy output you can generate. Jun smiled at the professional admiration in her voice. Perhaps there's room for collaboration. Both our civilizations chose different paths, but there's no reason we can't share our knowledge now. The group moved to a biological research facility, where Jin witnessed something that made him gasp. Colonial scientists were directing the evolution of new organisms in real time, their neural interfaces allowing them to manipulate genetic structures as easily as Earth's engineers manipulated computer code. Your bioengineering capabilities are extraordinary, Jin said, watching a scientist literally think new genetic sequences into existence. This could revolutionize medicine throughout human space. And your quantum computing could enhance our neural interfaces beyond anything we've achieved alone. Han responded. Imagine combining our biological processing with your quantum systems. The potential is enormous. As the day progressed, both sides continued to exchange information, each discovery leading to new possibilities. The colonial technologies, grown rather than built, offered solutions to problems Earth had struggled with for centuries. Meanwhile, Earth's advanced physics and quantum mechanics opened new horizons for New Soul's biological systems. It's almost poetic, Jun remarked to Jin, as they watched colonial and Earth engineers excitedly sharing ideas. Humanity split into 2 branches, each developing what the other lacked. And now we can become whole again, stronger for our time apart. Han overheard his comment and smiled. Perhaps that's the true purpose of colonization, not just to spread humanity among the stars, but to let it grow in different directions. Every challenge we faced forced us to innovate in ways Earth never needed to. And every problem Earth solved showed possibilities we never explored. The day ended with both teams compiling extensive reports for their respective governments. The potential for technological exchange was enormous, promising advances that neither civilization could have achieved alone. As Jin reviewed his notes, he realized that this meeting of long-lost human cousins might mark the beginning of humanity's next great leap forward. Tomorrow, Han announced as they prepared to leave, we'll show you our orbital facilities. I think you'll find our space-adapted organisms particularly interesting. The gleam in her eye suggested even greater wonders awaited, and Jin could hardly wait to continue exploring this remarkable fusion of biology and technology that New Soul had created. The alarms sounded without warning, their urgent tones cutting through the peaceful atmosphere of New Soul's central command center. Governor Song and Captain Jun were reviewing plans for technology exchange when the deep space monitoring screens flashed red. Multiple contacts had just emerged from hyperspace at the system's edge. Defense Commander Han Sung burst into the room, his bioneural interface pulsing with emergency protocols. Governor, we have incoming vessels. Pattern matches the Ravagers, but the fleet size. He paused, his face grim. It's unlike anything we've seen before. The central holographic display activated, showing the approaching fleet. Jun counted at least 30 ships, their designs alien and predatory. The vessels looked like dark metallic creatures, their hulls covered in what appeared to be organic armor. Who are they? Jun asked, watching as more ships continued to appear on the display. The ESS Horizon sensors were feeding data to the command center, adding detail to the threat assessment. Governor Song's expression hardened. We call them the Ravagers. They're nomadic raiders who strip worlds of resources, organic and technological. We fought them off twice before, but never more than 5 or 6 ships at a time. Han Sung manipulated the holographic display, highlighting the fleet's formation. The first time they came, we caught them by surprise. Our bioweapons confused their organic technology. The second time, they tried to adapt, but our planetary defenses held. This. He gestured at the growing fleet count. This is something else. 47 ships now, reported a sensor operator, her voice tense. They're forming attack patterns we haven't seen before. Multiple layers, coordinated approach vectors. Jun watched as the alien fleet spread out, clearly preparing for a systematic assault. The horizon has antimatter weapons. We can help defend the colony. One ship against 47. Han Sung shook his head. Brave, but it would be suicide. Our planetary defenses are strong, but they were never designed to repel a force this size. Governor Song activated his neural interface, connecting directly to the colony's defense grid. The holographic display shifted, showing New Seoul's defensive capabilities. Massive bioorganic weapon platforms orbited the planet, while surface-based defense systems powered up. We've got maybe 6 hours before they're in range, Han Sung calculated. Their approach speed suggests they're being cautious. They remember our defenses from last time. Jun studied the tactical display, his military training kicking in. The horizon sensors show their ships have grown since your last encounter. They're learning, adapting. Those organic hulls look like they've been specifically modified to resist your bioweapons. Confirmed, a colonial analyst reported. Their hull signatures show engineered immunities to our previous defensive measures. They've been planning this return carefully. Governor Song turned to Jun, his face serious. Captain, you should leave while you can. Take the horizon and warn Earth. This isn't your fight. With respect, Governor, Jun replied firmly. It became our fight the moment we found you. We're not abandoning our people again. Han Sung nodded appreciatively, but remained practical. The Horizon's antimatter weapons could be a game changer. The Ravagers have never encountered that technology. But one ship can be in the right place at the right time. Jun finished. Besides, the Horizon's quantum computers might be able to help coordinate your defensive systems more effectively. The next hours passed in a blur of activity. Colonial engineers worked frantically to interface Earth's quantum systems with their bioorganic technology. The hybrid system they created was unstable but powerful, enhancing the accuracy and response time of New Seoul's defenses. 4 hours to contact, Han Sung announced. We're evacuating non-essential personnel to the underground shelters. The surface cities are being locked down. Governor Song stood at the command center's window, looking out at the city his people had built. 3 generations we've lived here, Captain. 3 generations of building, growing, creating something new. I'll die before I let them take it. Jun watched as massive defense platforms rose from hidden underground bays, their bioorganic weapons charging with an eerie glow. The colony's preparation was impressive, but would it be enough? The Horizon will coordinate with your orbital defenses, Jun explained. We can use our antimatter torpedoes to create weak points in their formation. If your bioweapons can exploit those gaps, it could work, Han Sung agreed, studying the battle plans. But timing will be critical. One mistake, and either your antimatter weapons or our bioweapons could destroy both sides. The tension in the command center grew as the alien fleet drew closer. Colonial citizens hurried to shelter, while defense forces took their positions. The ESS Horizon moved into position, its weapons primed. 3 hours, Han Sung updated. They're beginning to accelerate. First wave will be their shock troops. They always test defenses before committing their main force. Governor Song looked at Jun, his expression resolute. Whatever happens, Captain, know that New Seoul is grateful. You could have fled, but you chose to stand with us. Jun nodded solemnly. Earth abandoned you once. We won't do it again. He activated his comm link to the Horizon. All hands, battle stations. We stand with New Seoul. As the first wave of Ravager ships entered the outer defense perimeter, both Earth and colonial forces prepared for the fight of their lives. The next few hours would determine the fate of not just New Sol, but perhaps humanity's future in the stars. The command center of New Sol hummed with intense activity as Captain Jun Li and Governor Song gathered their best tactical minds. Time was running short. The Ravager fleet would be within striking distance in less than 3 hours. Colonial and Earth officers huddled around the central holographic display, their faces illuminated by the pulsing red warning signals. "Show me your defense grid again," Jun requested, studying the complex network of bioorganic platforms surrounding the planet. Governor Song's neural interface connected directly with the system, causing the display to zoom in on key defensive positions. "Our outer ring consists of 23 platforms," Song explained, highlighting each station. "They generate an interconnected shield grid using controlled plasma streams. Behind that, we have our bioweapon launchers. The weapons themselves are living organisms. They seek out and attach to enemy ships, then begin breaking down their organic components." Technical Officer Jin Yu stepped forward, pointing to several gaps in the coverage. "The Horizon's antimatter torpedoes could be positioned here, here, and here. When they detonate, they'll create temporary holes in space-time. If we time it right, your bioweapons could pass through those holes before the enemy can react." Defense Commander Han Sung nodded slowly, seeing the potential. "The Ravagers have adapted to our normal attack patterns. But this they won't expect. Their organic shields have never encountered antimatter weapons." Jun moved to the tactical station, where his crew had linked the Horizon's quantum computers to the colony's bioneural network. The hybrid system was revolutionary. Earth's processing power combined with New Sol's living technology created something entirely new. "We need to coordinate precisely," Jun emphasized. "One miscalculation with antimatter weapons could destroy half the planet. Your bioneural interfaces can give us the speed we need, but our quantum computers will provide the accuracy." The next hour was spent drilling the combined forces. Colonial defenders learned to time their attacks with the Horizon's weapons, while Earth's crew adapted to working with the living technology of New Sol. It was challenging. Two completely different approaches to warfare trying to become one unified defense. "Look at this," Han Sung called out, pointing to new sensor data. "The Ravagers are adapting their formation. They've noticed our defensive preparations." The alien fleet had indeed changed its approach. Instead of coming in waves as before, they were now forming a sphere-like formation that would be harder to penetrate. "They learn quickly," Governor Song observed grimly. "Each time they attack, they come back stronger, smarter." "So do we," Jun replied firmly. He turned to address the combined command staff, seeing the mixture of determination and fear on their faces. "Listen to me, all of you. Yes, we're different. Earth chose technology, New Sol chose biology. But those differences aren't our weakness. They're our strength." He gestured to the tactical display showing their combined defensive plan. "Look at what we've created in just a few hours. Your bioweapons guided by our quantum computers. Our antimatter torpedoes enhanced by your living targeting systems. This is what humanity does best. We adapt, we combine, we overcome." The inspiring moment was interrupted by a sensor alert. The Ravager fleet had increased speed. They were now just 2 hours from engagement range. "They're trying to rush us," Han Sung analyzed. "They don't want to give us time to finish integrating our defenses." Governor Song's neural interface pulsed as he connected with the colony's defense grid. "All platforms report ready. Bioweapon synthesis is complete. We have enough viral loads to infect their entire fleet, if we can deliver them." Jun moved to the communications station. "Horizon, status report." "Antimatter torpedoes armed and ready, Captain," came the response. "Quantum targeting systems are synchronized with colonial defenses. We're as ready as we'll ever be." The command staff broke into teams, each focusing on their assigned sectors. Colonial officers worked side by side with Earth crew members, their different approaches combining into new tactics. The bioneural interfaces glowed as they linked with the defense grid, while quantum calculations streamed across dozens of screens. 1 hour to contact, Han Sung announced. First wave of Ravager ships entering final approach vector. Jun watched the enemy fleet's movement on the main display. Their organic ships seemed to pulse with malevolent purpose, like predators closing in for the kill. But this time, their prey was ready. All defenders to battle stations, Governor Song ordered, his voice carrying across all channels. Remember your training. Trust in each other. Earth and New Seoul stand together. The combined command staff took their positions, ready to coordinate the most complex defense in the colony's history. Years of separate evolution had led to this moment. Two branches of humanity reuniting to face a common threat. Launch the sensor drones, Jun commanded. Let's get a detailed scan of their approach formation. Bioorganic probes launched from New Seoul's platforms, while the Horizon's quantum sensors began mapping the enemy fleet's weaknesses. The data flowed through their hybrid systems, creating a real-time battle plan that neither civilization could have managed alone. As the final minutes ticked away, Jun looked at Governor Song. Whatever happens next, we face it together. Song nodded, his neural interface pulsing with battle protocols. Together, as we should have been all along. The first shots would be fired soon. But for the first time, Jun felt genuine hope. Earth's children had grown in different ways, but they were stronger for it. Now it was time to show the Ravagers exactly what humanity could do when it stood united. The first Ravager ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light as the antimatter torpedo struck its organic hull. The blast created a momentary tear in spacetime, through which New Seoul's bioweapons streamed like deadly rain. From her position on the Horizon's bridge, First Officer Hannah Park watched the devastating combination of Earth and colonial technology at work. Direct hit on the lead vessel, she reported, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. Bioweapons successfully deployed through the breach, moving to secondary targets. The Ravager fleet responded with overwhelming force. Organic plasma weapons lashed out at the planetary defense grid, while boarding pods launched toward the surface. The aliens had expected to find a single colony with limited defenses. Instead, they faced a unified human resistance, unlike anything they'd encountered before. Multiple threats detected. Han Sung's voice came through the command channel. Activating second-layer defenses. Release the interceptors. From planetary hangars, swarms of bioengineered defensive creatures emerged. They looked like giant insects, but their bodies contained advanced targeting systems tied to quantum computers. The hybrid creations darted between enemy ships, attaching themselves to boarding pods and tearing them apart with molecular acid. The Horizon weaved through the battle, its quantum engines allowing it to appear almost simultaneously at different points in space. Each appearance was marked by the launch of antimatter torpedoes, creating gaps in the Ravagers' organic shields that New Seoul's weapons exploited mercilessly. Their fleet is splitting into attack groups, Han observed, directing the Horizon's movements. They're trying to overwhelm individual sectors of the defense grid. Not this time, Han Sung responded. The colonial defense platforms shifted, their living weapons adapting to the new threat. Biological disruptor fields expanded outward, interfering with the neural links between Ravager ships. Several alien vessels began moving erratically, their organic navigation systems confused by the attack. The battle intensified as the Ravagers committed their main force. Massive carrier ships launched waves of fighter-like creatures, their biological weapons leaving trails of destructive energy across space. But the combined human defenses held firm. Group 3 is breaking through in Sector 7. A colonial officer reported urgently. They've adapted to the disruptor fields. Horizon, moving to intercept. Hannah responded immediately. The Earth ship spun on its axis, quantum drives flaring as it raced to plug the gap. 3 antimatter torpedoes launched in quick succession, their detonations creating a cascade of temporal disruptions that trapped the advancing Ravager ships. From his position in New Seoul's command center, Han Sung directed a wave of bioweapons through the disruptions. The living missiles attached themselves to the trapped Ravager ships, boring through their organic hulls and releasing engineered viruses that began breaking down their systems from within. Their adaptive capabilities are impressive, Hannah noted, watching as surviving Ravager ships began developing countermeasures to their attacks. But they can't adapt to both our technologies simultaneously. She was right. When the aliens evolved defenses against the antimatter weapons, they became more vulnerable to biological attacks. When they hardened themselves against the bioweapons, the antimatter torpedoes struck with devastating effect. The battle raged for hours, space itself seeming to warp and twist under the combined effects of quantum weapons and biological warfare. The Horizon's hull bore the scars of multiple direct hits, while several of New Sol's defense platforms had been destroyed. But the Ravager fleet was suffering far worse. Their command ship is attempting to coordinate a final push, Han Sung announced, his neural interface processing tactical data at incredible speed. All remaining ships concentrating their fire on the primary shield generator. Not if we can help it, Hannah responded. She keyed the ship-wide comm. All hands, prepare for close-range engagement. We're going after their command ship. The Horizon dove through the chaos of battle, its quantum drives pushing past safe limits. Ravager weapons fire filled space around them, but the ship's enhanced shields, now partially integrated with colonial biotechnology, held firm. Launch final antimatter spread on my mark, Hannah ordered, her fingers dancing across the tactical console. Colonial forces, stand ready with maximum biological payload. The command ship loomed ahead, its massive organic hull bristling with weapons. It fired a devastating barrage, but the Horizon's quantum calculations had already plotted the perfect approach vector. Mark. The combined attack struck like thunder from the gods. Antimatter torpedoes ripped holes in reality around the command ship, while New Sol's most powerful bioweapons poured through the gaps. The massive vessel's organic systems began to break down, its controlled biological processes turning against it. Enemy command ship is neutralized, Han Sung confirmed. The remaining Ravager ships are losing coordination. Their neural network is collapsing. Without their command ship, the alien fleet began to fall into disarray. Some ships attempted to retreat, while others fought on blindly, their organic brains unable to cope with the loss of central control. The combined human forces pressed their advantage, methodically eliminating the remaining threats. As the last Ravager ship exploded in a mixture of quantum fire and biological dissolution, a cheer went up from both Earth and colonial forces. Hannah allowed herself a small smile as she surveyed the battlefield. Debris from destroyed ships drifted through space, some still dissolving under the effects of bioweapons, others torn apart by antimatter explosions. All sectors report clear, Han Sung announced. The Ravager fleet is destroyed. We actually did it. Together, Hannah replied, finally allowing exhaustion to creep into her voice. We did it together. The combined human forces had achieved what neither civilization could have managed alone. As the Horizon moved to dock with New Sol's orbital station for repairs, Hannah reflected that perhaps this was just the beginning of what humanity could achieve when its different branches worked as one. The celebration filled New Sol's streets with light and music, a joyous mixture of Earth and colonial traditions. 3 days had passed since the battle, and the signs of victory were everywhere. Bioluminescent decorations grew along building walls, while quantum light displays danced in the sky above. People from both civilizations mingled freely, sharing stories and discovering their common heritage. Captain Jun Lee stood on the observation deck of the Colonial Administration Center, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. The ESS Horizon floated in orbit above, its hull bearing proud battle scars while colonial repair crews worked to integrate their bioorganic healing technology with the ship's systems. It's beautiful, isn't it? Governor Song joined him at the window. The way the light plays off the atmospheric processors. They're working better than ever now, thanks to your quantum optimization protocols. Jun nodded, noting how the massive structures seemed to glow from within. And our ship's hull will be stronger than ever, thanks to your biological reinforcement. Every day we find new ways to combine our technologies. Below them, crowds gathered in the central plaza where teams of engineers from both civilizations were setting up a permanent quantum communication array. Enhanced by New Soul's bioneural interfaces, it would maintain constant contact between the colony and Earth. The first transport ships will arrive within 6 months, Jun said, checking his datapad. Earth is eager to establish regular trade routes. Your biological technologies alone could revolutionize medicine throughout human space. Song smiled, his neural interface pulsing softly. And your quantum computing will transform our defense systems. The Ravagers won't dare return once word spreads of their defeat.